see a number of times that whenever a girl is getting married, or once she gets married, her entire orientation revolves around the husband or husband's family. This is something that keeps us wondering that how this happens. Obviously, sometimes we regard it as a phenomenon. So, do you have any thoughts on this?
In fact, I was going to ask you this question, that why? Why does a woman has to always live for her husband or for any other man in her life? I'll tell you an incident and just share an incident with you. I was invited to a marriage, and this girl, who was a very good student, in fact she scored all star marks in her high school, and she was, all of a sudden her parents decided, her parents are quite well educated, they have a very good background, they belong to excellent background. In spite of that, they decided to marry off this girl to a man much older than her age. I was more surprised that although this marriage was complete and an unequal marriage, in spite of that, what happened is, when the man died, all of a sudden, he had a lot of ailments, physical ailments. So when this man died, all of a sudden, what happened is, the entire female folk, they stripped off this girl of all her belongings. I mean, I'm not just telling you about the physical belongings, they also stripped off all. I mean, she is not supposed to have any desires, any passion. She is just supposed to live like a vegetable for the rest of her life. Do you think this is okay?
This is pretty common in our culture, that the wife should be always devoted to the husband, even after death as well.
So why this double standard? When a wife dies, the man does not have to follow all these rules. So why this double standard? Her chiseled face gone awry and pale, shocked and aghast, she went white like hell. Draped in white, she looked mystic. They chalked her hair, her silky dark manes heaped on the floor. Bangles, anklets, nothing remained, because an old soul perished in hell. Married before puberty to a ripe old man of 70, scared out of her wits on her wedding night, this innocent creature was not even aware of her marital rights. Disarmed and aroused by that sensuous touch of the barber, she responded spontaneous. Guilt-free and fully conscious, she realized the price she paid was too much. Her body basked in the glory of love. She did not try to refrain at all. That unbridled and unmitigated urge is like the natural flow of water that quenches thirst and elevates desire. I just heard a news. I'm really thunderstruck. I'm so shocked. I don't know how to react. A lady has conceived, it seems, after 10 long years. And when she broke this news to her in-laws, the mother-in-law of the lady told her to abort the baby right away if it's not a boy. And I'm more shocked that in the 21st century, her husband also has agreed to get the baby aborted if it is not a boy child. Married for about 10 long years, she had conceived at last. To her utter dismay, she was ordered to abort the baby. Her husband and his parents were ruthless. They would only have a boy and not a girl instead. The nurse and the doctor were all in unison. They aborted her baby with great precision. She pleaded, she cried, she implored them to change their mind, but the horrendous unlawful act of murder was carried on. The nurse declared that there was an irony, for the aborted child was in fact a boy. The ultrasound machine had behaved like a toy. She looked at her husband one last time, then turned her face away. I met this lady in the park. She's sitting all alone in the bench, and when I spoke to her, she told me the sad story of her life. I just wonder why a woman has to make sacrifices all the time and give explanations and justifications for every act of hers. It starts with her own father, brother, then to her husband and in-laws, and finally to her own child.
The old lady leaves her abode. She turns back one last time, her misty eyes all forgiving like the clear sunshine. She borrowed a mission to stitch the orders that she secured by pleasing her benefactors. Her little boy is now a man with bunch of degrees but humility none. His mum has brought him a beautiful bride. That vain lass is always basking in her self-induced pride. Her son hints his mum one day that they need her room for his in-laws to stay. Yes, friends, you heard me right. Her son had the heart to tell his mum that his in-laws have no one else to fall back upon. She promised her son to comply with his wish. Next morning, and before the first rays lit the earth, she disappeared like a magic spark. His mother's absence was too hard for him to bear. He had looked for her everywhere. Suddenly his eyes fell on a woman that made his colors to fade. Hugging and apologizing, he begged her to come back and stay. She blessed him softly and smiled away.